Are you a woman of faith who is struggling to navigate your current season of life? Do you feel like life is just happening to you instead of for you? My name is Jill Pack. I'm a certified life coach and a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I want you to know that no matter your season or circumstance, it is possible to create a more joyful life. And I would love to show you how. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, friends. Welcome to the Seasons of Joy podcast. This is episode number 48, entitled Empowering Women with Molly Claire. I'm so excited to share this conversation with you. Molly is a friend, a mentor, and my life coach. And I have been able to work with her and rub shoulders with her for over a year. And I've learned so much from her. And so I'm excited to share her with you. She has a lot of vision, inspiration, and motivation to do some amazing things. So Molly is a 7-figure business builder with a blended family of 10. She is dedicated to helping women overcome their limits, make the money they want, and have the time, freedom, and flexibility to be with the people in their life that matter the most, especially the little ones. Molly loves to help new life and weight loss coaches make their first 10K as a coach while establishing a strong business foundation for the future. Molly is the host of the Masterful Coach Collective podcast, and she is also the author of The Happy Mom Mindset. Both of those links are included in the show notes so that you can learn more about those. So here is my conversation with my coach, mentor, and friend, Molly Claire. All right, here we are with Molly Claire. I'm so excited to have Molly on with me. She has been one of my mentors for over a year, and I still am privileged enough to work with her a little longer, and I've learned so much from her. And so I'm so thrilled to share her with you as we dive into our conversation today. So I'm going to turn the time over to Molly and let her introduce herself and just tell us a little bit about herself.
Thank you so much for having me, Jill. This is so fun. And I'm excited to speak to these women in your podcast audience. So I'm Molly Claire. I'm a life and business coach. I work with female entrepreneurs, mostly female coaches. That's kind of where my business was born from, in that space. And I love that space. And that's what I do. I have a blended family of 10.
I love it.
Seems like a lot of people. And, in relation to your audience, the seasons are changing every day.
Yeah.
in
you didn't know we're coming.
Yes. So, but I love my business. I love helping women to kind of make really big, powerful shifts in their life and what they believe is possible for their life. And I'm a really big believer in helping women to really decide what their perfect balance in life is, whatever that looks like.
Let's start at the beginning, I think, for fun.
Yeah.
And maybe tell my listeners how you became a life coach, a master's certified life coach, and how that journey began, and maybe a little bit of what it looked like for you.
Sure. Yeah, I would love to. So, probably like many of your listeners, or at least some of them, there was a point in time at which I had no idea what coaching was. I wasn't really sure what this meant. And I was privileged enough to actually have my sister, who was becoming a coach, and she wanted to do a practice coaching session on me. And this was kind of part of her training, right? And so we did this session on the phone. And I will tell you, I still remember pacing around my back porch with, her in my ear on the phone. And just as we talked about some things in my life I was experiencing, I had such an enormous shift in my perspective, not only on what was happening in the moment, but honestly, perspective on my life, like my past, my history. And it was really kind of crazy. And I remember thinking, wow, this is something. I have to do. I'm interested in this. I want to do this. And I always knew that I wanted to be some kind of entrepreneur. I had done a lot of different things. Um, but this just seemed really different. It landed with me, and I knew it was something I wanted to be a part of. And so fast forward a little bit, at the time, to be honest, I was dealing with chronic fatigue syndrome. I was better than I had been, but I wasn't feeling great and dealing with some depression as a result of that kind of ongoing. I had 3 kids I was taking care of, and it was not good timing to become a coach. And it was actually the best timing, because pretty soon, even though I said, one day down the road, I will do this, I got notice that the life coach school back at the time, this was in 2014, was offering like one more, you know, coaching training with the founder herself. And I just thought, I have to do this. And essentially, what was one day down the road became right now. And the minute I crossed over and stepped into that, my mind started opening up, my clarity came. I started just experiencing a huge change in my life. I dove right into building my business soon after, certified as a master coach, and, built my practice. And I've never looked back, really.
So, I'd love to hear, like, what were the feelings that you experienced during this time as you were taking that step, as you were
Mm,
shifting into this new
mhm,
season, right?
mhm,
Just like what was going on for you
mhm.
inside? Because up until this point, were you mostly at home or?
I was, yeah. I had done some things here and there, job wise, or some business things, but I was primarily a stay at home mom. And I really enjoyed that. It was something I really always wanted to do, felt like I just really loved that space. And so, yeah, this shift for me, one extra little bit about it is that, actually, as I was going through this process and my life was changing, I was actually also started going through the process of divorce. So it was a really interesting time where I was making positive shifts in my life and also some very unexpected shifts. And I think for me, in one way, for your listeners, people listening, we all know when we take a step towards something that's new and feels like a risk and is scary, we can almost feel these feelings of maybe not, maybe I'm too afraid, and we can back away from it, right? But for me, because I was going through my divorce, I was so determined to keep going forward with my business, because I was raised by a single mom who was working all the time and not there. And I missed that terribly as a kid. And I never wanted that for my kids. And so as I was going through, this, I never planned to get divorced. I never had wanted to get divorced. And as I realized I need to commit to making this business happen, because I want to have time, freedom, and flexibility to be with my kids, to provide well for them. I'm going to overcome this. And so for me, when you talk about the feelings, certainly there was plenty of fear. I mean, I remember feeling terrified about the idea that I was going to be financially responsible, not just for me, which I'd been in the past, right? But my entire family. This was very new for me, new to my identity. And I was terrified. And yet, in my mind and in my entire being, backing away from it was not an option, because it just mattered to me too much. So forward I went.
So, yes, you could probably say just committed, determined, right?
Totally committed and
Yeah.
determined.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's an interesting point to pause on. Is sometimes I think that, a lot of people, we feel one emotion, like it's I'm this or I feel this, but we can hold multiple emotions at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so this
Yes.
idea of, yeah, of course there's fear in a new season,
Yeah.
but there's also other options available that can come along for the ride. to help us
Yes.
step forward.
Yes. Yes. And really, I mean, when I think about it, it was that determination and commitment that I was really grounded in. And that I was almost like, I imagine, like I'm like lassoing this rope, right? And I toss it to this point down the road, and I'm staying on this course no matter what comes. And that's what kept me grounded, because I'll tell you, I remember there was about a 2-week period, and believe me, there was fear longer than that. But I remember every single day during that 2 weeks, just waking up and just feeling this like pit of fear in my entire body. I was really scared
Yeah.
because, I think all of us as humans have some level of financial fear in our life, in general. And for me, it was like, this is on me. Like, I am responsible for making sure my kids are going to be okay. And that felt really big to me, and it felt really scary. And I had a lot of doubt. But every day I would wake up and it's like, oh, there's this fear. And thank goodness I had coaching, and thank goodness I knew that I could make space for those feelings to be there, because to your point, it allowed me to say, here's the fear. This fear can be here, and I'm going to keep stepping forward. And I'm also going to be with determination and commitment and resiliency and love and all the things that I want to bring into this experience.
Yeah, I love that, because I think a lot of people I coach, right, they focus on that one emotion,
Mm-hmm.
and if that's what's holding them back,
Mm-hmm.
and to just open up their view, their understanding that, it's not wrong to feel the fear, it's not wrong to be afraid, but there are other options that can help you move past, or at least soften.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it doesn't totally go away, right? It
Mm-hmm.
probably, in my experience, it ebbs and flows.
Mm-hmm.
And
And yeah, and I think sometimes we think, well, we have to get rid of the fear. We have to move away from the fear in order to have something different happening. But that's not true at all, right? In any given day, we feel all these different emotions.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So, tell my listeners, I'd love for you to explain kind of your work as it's evolved, because in the beginning,
Yeah.
it was with moms, right?
Mm-hmm.
You help busy moms, or
Yes.
so recently Molly just has come out with an advanced certification
Mm-hmm.
in motherhood. So it's still
Yes.
part of
Yes.
Symbol, right? Which is
Yes.
so amazing. So your hands in a few different things. So I'd love for you to tell my listeners kind of, what is your goal? What is your purpose
Mm-hmm.
in your business as you help these women entrepreneurs? What is your hope?
Yeah. Oh gosh, this is like such a loaded question. This is when I'm going to get so emotional and passionate
Love
here.
it.
So, yes, I started out working with moms and really helping women to release all this fear that too many of us carry. Like, we kind of think we're ruining our kids' lives, right? We kind of think that there is a very certain way we're supposed to parent. And if we do this way of parenting that we're not quite sure how to actually execute, that our kids are going to be happy and they're going to be successful and everything's going to be perfect. And then we all end up a ball of anxiety, and it doesn't go very well, right? So I started out in that space, and I loved working with women. I wrote a book, The Happy Mom Mindset. So anyone listening who is a mom, no matter what stage or season, it's a very kind of practical. It's got like the cognitive and emotional piece, but it's also very practical and tangible to really help these women in motherhood. So that's where I started. And if I take a step back and think about the work that I was doing with these women, it was really liberating them from feeling so stuck in frustration, in self-frustration, feeling like they don't really have power over their own life. And so it's kind of that theme of liberating them and helping them to really feel at peace with themselves and in charge of their own experience, right? So I started there, and And as I was building my practice, I also actually started training coaches and master coaches because I loved the coaching process and I really loved helping people just hone those skills in. So that was kind of another thing I did. And so over time, as I trained so many coaches and worked with them, I I started working more with coaches from a business perspective and really loving it. And so I remember I just crossed over this point that I realized, oh, I mean, without really switching my marketing, right, or my website, I am coaching a different population and doing a very different thing. And so, yeah, I mean, fast forward, I'll just kind of in a nutshell tell you what I do now and how I hope to help these women. Um, so I have a community for coaches that Jill is a part of, where I help women with their business skills as they build their coaching business, their coaching skills, and also that life business balance that I think is so important. And in that space, again, my hope is to really liberate these women and help empower them to believe they can create what they want, they can make more money if they want, they can have what they want in their personal life and in their professional life. Like all of it is possible for them. So at the heart of it, it really is empowering women to love themselves, connect with what they want to create, and feel capable of doing it. I know that's very kind of woo
Yeah.
woo language, right?
I love it because I would say, like, since the beginning, the very first part of our time together, we begin with a vision, right?
Yes.
A life vision. And I remember thinking that I hadn't really considered this idea of business and personal life being part
Mhm.
of the same vision, right?
Yes. Like
They
in
feel very,
cooperation, working
yeah,
together.
yeah, they feel
Yeah.
very separate. And I remember the first assignment where we did our vision, our
Mhm.
vision board, I guess. And just that whole process was so powerful for me
Mhm.
because it really did open up such a beautiful a vision of the two intertwined
Mhm.
and how it really is possible to
Mhm.
mesh those together.
Mhm. And I think so much of it is about really being aligned, right, with what we want. And when we think that our business and our personal life are in competition, it causes all kinds of problems. And I think I kind of was raised sort of believing that because my mom had to put food on the table. And so she certainly didn't have time, right, for our family and actually the personal part because she just didn't, right? And I think that's where this is what's so interesting about everyone listening, whether you're a coach or whether you're in this season of your life, or maybe you want to do something new and different. I think it's really amazing to see how the experiences we have in our life they come to fruition in such fascinating ways, right? Where the experiences we have, even those that are really challenging, end up being for our good and for the good of others. Um, because building my business and going through my divorce, you want to talk about committed to figuring out how these two sides fit together, because I certainly wasn't going to give up on my quality of life with my kids, and I knew that the business was the key to having that. So it was like these are together, right?
Yeah. And how to
um
make that work.
yeah, and so it's something I'm really passionate about. It was a big part of my why. And yeah, so as I help other women to do this, one thing I'm really big on is helping them to have the ideal balance, if that's even the way you want to think about it, right? Like, so their life is aligned. And this also relates to my other program that you are mentioning, is doing an advanced certification for coaches who specifically work with clients who are moms. So this would be parenting coaches, people that work with moms for, work-life balance, anything family related. And so that program, even though it's slightly different than what I do in helping my coaches build a business, it really, I believe, is just one more way to empower women to be able to support women in, just having your priorities the way you want them and creating the life you want. So,
Yeah, I love that. And I think too, the thing I also took away from uh, that our time together is
mhm,
balance doesn't mean everything gets the same amount of time or
Mm-mm.
necessarily focus. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's just a combination of what feels true to you as you create and live life and enjoy
Yeah.
all the parts of our life, right? It's
Yes.
not like every piece is exactly the same, but it's the process of aligning with what that balance looks like for yourself.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And I think, when we go through these seasons of change, and especially, when things shift to, I imagine a lot of your listeners have been maybe more family focused, and maybe that's changing, right? As kids are leaving. I have my husband and I, 4 of the 8 are now, finished out of high school. And I think that it really is a time when we can feel a little bit lost, like, what are my priorities? How do I stay aligned with what matters most when the things that have mattered most and taken up a lot of my time seem to not really be in my life very much anymore? Like, how do I do this, right? And then there's navigating adult like relationships with adult children and such.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
yes.
I
So I
have
think
found myself there. Yes.
yeah. And you know what I think is exciting about that? On one hand, it challenges us like, okay, well, wait, now who am I? What do I want? But the beautiful thing about that is that we get to have this experience of, yeah, who am I? And what do I want? If all options are on the table and I get to create my future however I want it, what is that going to look like? So, what can challenge us and make us feel lost and confused and all of that is a beautiful opportunity, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a catalyst for something beautiful.
Yes.
It really it's kind of that forced change, right?
Yeah.
Or a
Yes.
forced shift, but the real change is our choice.
Yes.
What direction are we going to take that opportunity,
Yes.
right?
And I think, I want to just throw in there to your point earlier, Jill, about holding more than one emotion, because whenever we're shifting, whenever there's a new season in our life, whenever things change, even though I'm saying it's exciting and what do I want to do and all of this, most likely if there's a change happening, there are also feelings of loss and grief and a letting go. And those are all challenging. And so it's really not one or the other, right? It's this beautiful experience, and all the emotions of life are going to be there. Yeah.
I think that's what makes it so beautiful, though, is
Yes.
it's the wrestle. On
Mm-hmm.
some level, it's the wrestle to
Mm-hmm.
come on the other side of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a good point to make. So, as you have worked with women like me
Mm-hmm.
who
Mm-hmm.
are in this mid season and exploring and putting ourselves out there and creating, what do you see as maybe one or two of the biggest struggles that you see that maybe prevents them from
Mm-hmm.
enjoying that season or
Mm-hmm.
living to the fullest, I guess?
Yeah. I mean, the two things that come to mind first are, I think as women in general, we oftentimes have a hard time thinking about what we want and who we are, because we think very much about ourselves in relation to other people and in relation to how we help other people or what we do for other people. And so I think there can be a pretty big block. Like, if I'm just thinking about what I want and how amazing my life could be, is that selfish? I think we think that wanting and desiring and claiming what we want is selfish. That's a huge barrier that I see. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when you taught on this, that was
Mhm.
a shift for me because
Mhm.
that would be my experience, right? Just
Mhm.
so focused on family life and the needs of the people I'm in charge of and taking care of, and the
Mhm.
needs of the home and everything that goes on there, to
Mhm.
go in the space of, well, what do I want? It
Mhm.
does feel scary
Mhm.
and could be viewed as selfish, which
Mhm.
again, to your point, isn't true, But
Mm-hmm.
over time, that's what we've come to believe.
Totally. We think that our needs and wants are in competition with other people's. It's kind of the same idea of business and life, right? And yet, what I found more again and again, and listen, as I'm talking, it's not like I'm perfect at this, that I always, give myself full permission to want. I feel the same things, right? Oh, maybe this is selfish. I should accommodate this person, right? We all do that. And yet, what I find is, and I believe this is true for every one of you listening, as you think about who you are, who you want to be, what you want in your life, and you move toward that, you end up really serving and guiding and leading people in your life in a really unique way that you couldn't otherwise do. Because I've seen this time and again that when people lean into the things they love and what they're passionate about, they become this like bigger version of themselves, right? This grown, fulfilled, expanded version. And that always gives so much to everyone around them. So I think the more we can see it that way, it kind of helps us, right? Like overcome that little, like, this is selfish barrier.
Yeah. It's expansive, not restrictive.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes,
Beautiful.
yes. And I would say the second one is really kind of an identity issue, kind of like I mentioned before. Like if we've always defined ourselves in relation to other people, it can feel really uncomfortable and uncertain to define ourselves just on who we are or what we like, or you know what I mean? It's
Yeah. Yeah.
almost it's almost like we kind of feel tethered to these like relationships and people around us, and that can be challenging. And so I really encourage women to really pay attention to their gifts and desires and give adequate space for that, and it actually builds a lot of confidence.
Yeah. It's interesting because that's the other thing that I have noticed is so often we define ourselves by those relationships,
Yes.
which we love those relationships. We
Yes.
do want those, but oftentimes that's what we lead with and that's what we end with. Like
Mhm.
there isn't anything else. It's
Mhm.
I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother. This is
Mhm.
my job, this is where I live, this is my race, this is my
Mhm.
ethnicity, like
Mhm.
all of that, right? And so
Mhm.
we really do a disservice when all we do is define ourselves by those roles and
Mhm.
relationships.
Mhm. Yeah. And it's so common, right? I mean, it's really common for that to be the first thing out of our
Mhm.
mouths. And so, and what I find sometimes is the reason we do that is, unfortunately, as women, I think we kind of sometimes tend to validate ourselves based on what we do for other people.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so there's kind of this sense of that's how I claim that I'm giving value in the world, that I'm important, like I'm a mom. I do these things for these people, which is great that we're caretakers and kind, right? But I find that the more we as women can be validated and feel validated in our own skin as such a valuable, beautiful woman and human being, it becomes easier to claim things about us that have nothing to do with anyone else.
Yeah. Well, and I think that in of itself too is expansive. It
Yes.
allows us to reach for those things and to create and to share and to give. Yeah,
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So this has been so fun. So if you have one tip for my
Mhm.
listeners, they're in the mid-season of life, their
Mhm.
kids are transitioning away from home,
Mhm.
and they have kind of lost sight of the things we've talked about, right? Of who they
Mhm.
are, what
Mhm.
they want. I've said this before. It's like we kind of have this life plan until our kids leave the house. And then there's just like this empty space that many of us we face at that time of life, and we're confused, we're lost. And
Mhm.
so what bit of advice or
Mhm.
anything you could share that maybe someone could
Yeah.
take today and make a difference in their life?
So first of all, what you're feeling and experiencing is so normal. That's the first thing. It's so normal to feel everything you're feeling and for it to be hard and for you to feel a little bit lost. And so as you've been listening to this, if you're feeling these things or defining yourself by other people, we don't need to judge that at all. It's totally normal. And if you would just give yourself 5-10 minutes to just decide, just for that little moment in time, that your job is to only think about you and what you would want in your life if you could have anything at all. Because I think sometimes when we give, we just carve out like a little space and we're like, okay, in 10 minutes, I can go back to taking care of everyone else. I think it allows you to be present there. And so do that for yourself. Have that time. Dream again. Think about what would be fun. Think about what would be expansive. And I promise that you will learn in that little bit of time some desires that you have in you that you maybe have forgotten or didn't know they were there. And that little spark is all it takes to create something amazing.
Love it. Okay, so the 2 takeaways are how
Mhm.
you're feeling is totally normal.
Mhm.
Self-grace and know that that's what humans do.
Mhm.
And number 2, give yourself just 10 minutes a day to allow yourself to dream, to desire, to want, and
Mhm.
see what amazing things happen.
Mhm.
Awesome. All right. So if people want to find you, if they want to learn more about you, maybe
Yeah.
what can they follow you?
Yes. So you can follow me on Instagram. It's just Molly Claire Coaching. And I also have like a Facebook business page. I don't think anyone really follows those much anymore. And you can just find me at mollyclaire.com. So if someone is a coach or a female entrepreneur, and I do have a podcast as well. So the Masterful Coach podcast, where we focus on business, life balance, and that ideal life business vision and coaching skills. So
That's what I was going to say. It's like there's coaching, but there's so much more there that I think any entrepreneur could find
Mhm.
great value there to help
Yeah.
them on their journey. So,
Yeah.
Molly, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Jill. This is awesome. I love speaking to women like your audience any day. Love it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you hear, I would love it if you would share it with your friends and family and leave me a rating and review. If you'd like to learn more about what life coaching is, please schedule a free discovery call with me where we can work together through something that's causing you a problem. Just go to my website, seasons-coaching.com, and you can also find information about my Seasons of Joy one-on-one coaching program and my Seasons of Joy community. Have a joyful week, and I'll see you next time.